Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the video. So let's talk touchscreens in modern cars and how complicated they've become to use. But before we get into this video about the car infotainment screens and physical buttons coming back to cars, please consider subscribing to Dope Car Tech and drop a like on this video. Also leave your thoughts in the comment box below. In fact, somewhere in this video, I'll tell a story of a friend who also loves cars, but couldn't turn on the wipers and climate temperature of a particular brand. If that sounds interesting, let's get started. So over time, infotainment screens in modern cars have just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and dominating a huge part of the car's dashboard. Some of the biggest offenders of these trends are the Mercedes EQ hyperscreens that you find on Mercedes EQ electric lineup. Also, some high-end General Motors vehicles just have a huge slab of screen on the whole dashboard. Another new trend now is front passenger screens that almost all automakers are doing. And I honestly think the screen for a passenger is pointless and unnecessary. I mean, big and huge touch screens are cool, right? It means the car is modern and advanced, yeah? So what's the problem? What's the problem? These huge touchscreens are getting distracting and harder to use while driving. And come to think of it, driving is an inherently visual task. Lots of visual information for our brains to process. And using a touch screen while driving adds another layer of visual task for our brains to process. However, automakers are having great time cramming more and more and more features into infotainment systems of cars. Even simple things like opening the glove box or turning on your wipers, adjusting the fan speed and the climate control. Tesla is the number one offender in this. Even the new electric Volvos like the EX90 and the ES90, I know, confusing names, are following this trend of putting even the most simple tasks into touchscreens. And it's really sickening. I think this compromises safety because in most cases, to use these features while driving, you have to literally take your eyes off the road for something as simple as turning on your heated seats or adjusting your fan speed. That's if you can even find the menu it's buried in. It can really be nerve-wracking, especially if it's the first time you're getting into the car. A Swedish study tested 11 modern cars and a 2005 Volvo V70 and timed how long it takes to perform a few simple tasks like increasing the volumes or changing the fan speed and the temperature. The Volvo was the easiest to understand and operate by a huge margin. Modern cars like the Tesla Model 3, the Volkswagen ID3, Hyundai Ioniq, and the BMW iX averaged between 20 to 30 seconds to complete a simple task. According to a post by New York Times, your chances of having an accident or you hitting someone doubles if your eyes are off the road for more than 2 seconds. Of course, this depends on the speed and traffic conditions. But with physical buttons and switches, you can easily have your eyes on the road while adjusting your volumes or temperature and fan speed. It's that simple. So we need buttons, or there needs to be a balance between buttons and screens in car interiors, not just putting everything in the infotainment screen. So I probably know this guy. He's Volkswagen's design chief. And he says, and I quote, "It's not a phone, it's a car." Yes, you're absolutely right, Mr. Andreas Mint. I don't know if this is an official news, but Volkswagen admits defeat and is bringing back buttons for good. In an article published by Car Scoops, Volkswagen brings back physical buttons after admitting touchscreens are a disaster. The much needed reintroduction of physical buttons will start in the production of ID2 in 2026. So it's talking about Volkswagen's, new ID cars that are coming up. So these new platforms would have buttons in their interior, not just screens. Volkswagen design boss says the future models have physical buttons for crucial functions. Andreas Mint says that they won't make the same mistake with touch-based controls. And Volkswagen have really made mistakes with trying to make everything touch based, like increasing the volumes or changing the temperature of the car. And so, what are those essential functions that Volkswagen will be bringing back? So, essential functions like volume, heated seats, the fan controls, the hazard lights would be right below the infotainment system. Even on the steering wheels, if you've noticed, modern cars are having some capacitive touch controls on the steering wheel, which can be really annoying to use. But now physical buttons will be coming back to the steering wheels. It's great that Volkswagen have admitted this and are bringing back buttons for essential functions and are also bringing back buttons on the car's steering wheel. Now, don't get me wrong. Screens in cars are here to stay because for a good part, they have helped in decluttering car interiors, and with more technology in cars, which are needed, it's impossible to put all these controls in button form. However, I think automakers have capitalized on this because it's just cheaper to slap an iPad on your dashboard and bury every car control in it. But there can and needs to be a balance in screen and physical control. And I'm glad legacy automakers like Volkswagen are weighing in on this. Recent Volkswagen cars, especially its ID lineup, have been plagued with a lot of infotainment issues and glitches. And Volkswagen had invested approximately 200 billion euros in its software division, Carriad, which was a disaster, especially for a company that was just coming out of the Dieselgate scandal. I mean, the ID3, 4, 5, and ID Buzz, of which I've reviewed on this channel, are great cars, but the infotainment system is the Achilles heel in those cars. And the thing is that for the 20% of the time it works as it should, they work great. However, they can be infuriating and annoying in my experience, especially when they are not working or when they are irresponsive, especially when you want to maybe turn on the volumes or temperatures and you have to deal with those sliding capacitive touch controls. I mean, speaking of the ID3 and Buzz, I'll leave a link of my review on the description box below, so be sure to check that out. Now, Volkswagen isn't alone. Toyota, Ford, Mazda, and likes are backtracking on screens after drivers revolted. But here's the twist of everything. Tesla is doubling down on putting everything on its screens. They've even put you changing from park to drive in a touchscreen. What happens when the screen fails? And mind you, there are many cases with these infotainment systems just blanking out. On the other side of the divide, touchscreens are futuristic, customizable, over the air updates, and on the other side, buttons are more intuitive and easy to use, and in use cases safer, but they can be expensive, especially if you want to engineer them to be intuitive and tactile. For me, peak Volkswagen is the Volkswagen Golf 7 and 7.5, and other Volkswagen and Audi products that came out in that generation. Beautiful interior, high quality materials, and really tactile physical buttons and knobs and control. So, as earlier mentioned about the story in the beginning, me and a couple of my work friends went on a work trip and we rented out a Tesla. And this colleague of mine, who was a car guy, and another colleague that was sitting in the front passenger seats with him for the first 5 minutes of our drive on a rainy day, it was a hassle trying to turn on the window defroster and increasing the temperature. At the end of the day, maybe cars don't need to be smartphones. Maybe they just need to work as cars, to be honest. But what's your take? Are you team screens or your team buttons? Let me know in the comment box below. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching. Do consider subscribing to Dope Car Tech. Leave a like on this video. That's for me in this one. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.